blessings and health and strength so we can accomplish thy will. This is our prayer, and this is what we say in the name of thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys. Welcome to our meeting. Hold on 1 second. Let me bring these individuals in. Aloha. In my email to all of you, I asked you folks to do certain things as an assignment. I was primarily more interested in your opinion regarding President Eisenhower and why is he important in this case? Well, in his speech, he says, a vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. I want to know if you guys agree that only through military processing can there be peace. I disagree with that. But he says that, and most presidents and after him have chanted the same mantra, that without a strong military, there cannot be any peace. And so he goes on to say, "Are be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction." We know that in wartime, I'm a warrior. And if my hands are up and I'm defending and striking at the same time, if I get my strike in, of course, my opponent won't be able to strike me. But if he's stronger, then he sets me back up. So what am I doing? It's just a continuation of clashes. So where does peace come in from that? I'm going to pick on Earl for a moment.
Hi, everyone.
Aloha.
Okay. My opinion of that is that everybody wants to go through power, and they see power as being strength, but strength is really about defending. Now, it is valuable to have protection, to protect yourself, but no matter what, nothing will stop anyone from attacking you. But if you don't have commonality and talk about commonality and what is it that you're really trying to seek, you'll never have that discussion because you'll have generational hatred.
There's no password, just get in there. I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
It perpetuates generational hatred also, because there's a lot of victims in that have nothing to do with the powers that be. And they're not really trying to seek out peace, but only through power. But that also goes back to strategic warfare with Clausewitz, where it was like totally obliterate everything. But then if you go back to Sun Tzu's, is a different version of warfare of how it's done when you win the hearts and minds of a people, which that's based on love and understanding, not just obliteration. What is it that's really needed? What are you trying to accomplish? But their whole mindset has been conquer, conquer, conquer. But there's also the other peaceful side that some people don't want peace. And that's what we're really dealing with the most. Who benefits from war and what does war really benefit? And who does it benefit is really what needs to be discussed. And it's just mass confusion, so it keeps you off track. So I don't really believe in that. That's always been their way of conquering, taking over a land, taking over resources, and then say it's peace. No, it's peace for them if they can keep you humble and quiet. But too many people suffer under that type of mindset, is my opinion.
Thank you. Adrian, I like your opinion on why there's wars, and is war the answer for peace? And if not, tell me why, please.
I don't agree with war trying to be the answer for peace at all. I think that, as a Christian person and as a ordained deacon of the Roman Catholic Church, I feel that peace must be sought by discussing, understanding, and knowledge of the situation more than the selfish reasons that many men go to war. Okay? Usually, in many cases, we've seen around the world where people are fighting for a piece of land. And that land not necessarily belonging to them at all. in your case, Your Majesty, Hawaii was taken from you all without any concern or consideration for its real ownership. And even after the war, part of the transaction, they still remain without concern for you all, without concern for the people. And I think that many wars are started because people who are in charge of the military specifically are unconcerned about the people of the actual country and the land of the country, which is the heritage of every man in his own country.
Thank you. Marcia, I'm gonna pick on you for a moment here.
Yes, please.
Because yours is,
Chomping at the bit, and thank you so much for this meeting this morning.
you're welcome.
I see a very different picture in the writings and what Eisenhower is telling us. If we look at the nature of where we are in the war powers, what he's warning us is that the path that it's going, it would accelerate, and there's a lot of momentum to have the war powers building. But if we go back all the way to Abraham Lincoln, we begin to see that the war powers were laid after the insurrection state formed for a couple reasons. Number one, to preserve the Union, and number two, to preserve the civil rule, which is what we got, a military civil rule as the Union was separated. And that there's a way the only way for the military not to have to preserve that peace is for us to come forward with a viable alternative to the military rule that was laid to keep the peace. We see that from Abraham Lincoln, the Lieber Code, the Executive Order number 100, it was the laying of that military civil rule that we still think is the law, that we still think because we accept that the next emergency executive order is laying that forward. It's simply because they have a moral obligation, a military obligation to bring some type of government until we, with peace, come forward with a viable alternative. So what he's telling us is he's telling us the path that's inevitable if we don't do something else. There is a way, and it's through, and we see even with Switzerland, who is a declared neutral nation. They participate in the effects of the world, but the wars don't come to them because they're a declared neutral, because they have taken that path out through the military rule into that recognized declared neutrality that gives that's where real power comes from. It doesn't come from the fight. It comes from the center, from that place where we're centered and where we're grounded and where we're in that neutrality from which we have that instantaneous response and calming the Pono, the Ho'oponopono, in that moment, we're the power. They're not any longer in power. And in the ethers, we see the cleanup of that military and the military in US actually using in proper use to clean up not only the military, but now judges are being arrested and things are happening. So that the scum on the surface of our society is being cleared so we can emerge with a viable alternative. And that's the real power of a warrior. To stand there and know that it's already done, we've already won, because our minds are open. They're not any longer captured by the war powers. We stand in our full divinity, in our full 0 point, that from there, peace can occur. That's what I saw in it. Thank you.
It's well thought out. You're absolutely correct. And we'll discuss that in a moment, but you're You did your homework. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to pick on our Minister of Interior, Michael Proper, to follow up with the question was, again, is war necessary to bring peace? And is there, do you agree or disagree with Eisenhower's concept about regarding the industrial complex, the military complex? Your answer?
The simple answer is aloha. Aloha is all that's needed. Literally love, kindness, respect, the ability to treat others as we would want to be treated. These basic principles that are rooted in the fabric of the Hawaiian kingdom and Kanaka Maori today, in Maori and Aotearoa, all through the Pacific. And Your Majesty, it runs through your bloodlines. It runs through the Nephites, it runs through Hagoth, it runs through all of those that preceded the queen who laid down her life to serve and to give. You know, this last week, I met with a firm, and a very respected man said, you know, I don't believe in what you're doing with the Kingdom of Hawaii. My brother's Hawaiian. He was adopted. And I said, do you really understand what it's about? And he says, yes. The queen actually threatened to kill people when she was let out. And I said, you're so emphatically wrong. And in my heart, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. When I got off the call, I went and researched, and I thought, how does someone have a perception like that? Because everything, I went back to the palace. I went back, I saw the room that she was locked in. And I went back, physically I was there. And then, so fast forward a couple years later, I went and did the research, and Your Majesty, it was very simple. All of the data pointed at she was willing to lay down her life and her efforts and her everything that she had been given. And there were things that happened at the same time. Like, for instance, there was a version of the Constitution of the Kingdom of Hawaii for just females. There was a version of the Constitution that tied back, that was confused with multiple different versions. And I think through colonial efforts where they divide, a good example is language. Language divides us and separates us so we can be conquered. But if we unite, for instance, technology can bring that language all back to one. We can travel all, I think that not just the internet, but certain technologies and translators, not just with documents, but assets that artificially intelligently read and can take masses of information. I believe that we can have peace and clarity so that the spirit of aloha can actually be understood. And it's a simple thing of liberty and freedom and loving one another. So, you know, as far as what Eisenhower, you know, I personally don't know much about him or his history, but I do know that colonialism, and not specifically colonialism, but the United States of America, with what they did in 1830s, 1840s, and in fast forward when the Kingdom of Hawaii was perverted into the Republic of Hawaii and then transformed illegally into the state of Hawaii. And why I could say illegally is we all know that there was really no voting of Kanaka Maori to actually say, we want to become a state. That's been proven. And so when you look at the history and the stability of you, Your Majesty, and this body, it enables aloha to not only be organized, but in such a way where peace can actually be recognized, because the individual can actually then govern in themselves. And with individual governance, it's okay if they even to govern them. Like, I just had somebody say they're not willing to be involved in it because they want to party and drink and do drugs. It's like, that's wonderful. That's their choice. But yes, you're right. They can't be, just like Margaret talked about, being at a vibration level where we as individuals can actually say, I can plug into that because I relate to that, and I'm on the same vibrational level to serve and to love and to give. But the war side of it, it's like what we talked about last meeting. You know, you have, first it starts with elements of, and this may sound crazy, but he who controls the gold or he who controls the money controls the rules. And so when you have a currency war that turns into a tariff war, that turns into a trade war, that turns into real war, that cycle of physical war is what the queen, your cousin, was not willing to do. She said, I will lay down my law, as well as ancestors going back. They didn't take up weapons. They buried the weapons and they made a covenant. And it's through that covenant that I believe the spirit of aloha and the authority can actually continue forward to create an environment that is conducive for all of humanity to be free. So I can
agree.
continue, but I'll stop there, Your Highness or Your Majesty.
I agree with you. I want to read that part where he was saying, I'm going to pull it up because I want to recite it accurately. But before that, she says, Queen Liliuokalani did not voluntarily give up her throne. In 1893, a group of American businessmen backed by U.S. Marines overthrew the Hawaiian monarchy. What she did was signing this was to avoid bloodshed, because the people that were supporting her was destined to be executed, and she didn't want them to die. So she was willing to give up her throne, everything, everything that she thought she loved dearly. She showed that she did not, meaning that she loved her people more so than the trinkets and the office and etc. And that is a remarkable lady she was. So she gave up the throne so that the people would not be executed who supported her. That was one aspect. And the other is that she didn't want to start a war, but she knew that the Hawaiian people would have destroyed the Marines. One, because they only had like 100 and something personnel there. And then you have Hawaiians are big people, and they're mighty warriors. Most of the Polynesian islands have great warriors, from Hawaii to New Zealand to Samoa to Tonga. All of them have great warriors. And one of the things of the Hawaiian people, they'll fight. They won't fight for anything, but they will fight for family because of love of their family. They will fight for the land because the land is where their feet stands, and every inch of the land is sacred to them. They will fight for their beliefs because the beliefs is who makes who they are. And number four, it encapsulate all three, is that they fight for a reason and a purpose, but not for greed. And that's why the story of Queen Liliuokalani is so important for all of you to understand. So how does it marry up with what Eisenhower did? What Eisenhower did was to say, it was primarily a warning as well, warning that if my country becomes strong with all these weapons, then the other country becomes strong in all their weapons and continue going on. Who benefits from that? The military complex industry benefits from that, because they support both ends of the war, both parties. So the people that win are the ones that instigate and promote war. So my question now, it will go to Sule, Tanya. What's the best way to avoid war? What is your thoughts? How would you avoid it?
Well, I love everything that's been said today. It's amazing to be in this group with all of you. It's an inside job. It's about our own sovereignty. It's about the frequency that we hold and the transmission that creates. So education is one aspect, but primarily it's to maintain that 0 point central space where we don't get caught up in the game of the fear, which is intentionally put upon us to take us off of our center and to be reactive. The body that we maintain our neutrality, as individuals that we maintain our neutrality. And how do you maintain that neutrality? It's a nice thing to say, but to do it is to embody aloha. It's to embody love. It's to know that through our sovereignty and through that neutrality, we are more powerful than any games that might be put upon us. So if we enter into fight or flight, we have now given our power away, and we are in the energy and in the consumption of the other. So our job is to hold strong in the power of the love that we hold, no, not in just some sort of nicety, but in the actuality that that is the true power of humanity. That is who we are as children of God. And if we can overcome the stories, the minutia, the false story of humanity, that is that we are shameful, that we are sinful, that we are immoral, that we are to be blamed, that we are unworthy, and rather rise into the truth of our nature, we have world peace. We have that by transmission, even in the scientific quantum world of the 10,000 monkey theory. You know, when enough of us rise up, it affects the whole. And so that's where I believe we begin and end when it comes to peace on earth.
Thank you. Kalani, can you, what are your thoughts regarding the topic? I purposely chose Eisenhower because of all the policies. His warning, or it was clear regarding the building up of military versus the building up of a peaceful coalition. So it appears, according to Eisenhower's prediction, the military complex, the military itself is growing large, while people who believe in peace, to fight peace, are trying to catch up to that. They're not there yet. Everybody's all convoluted with all this rhetoric and all this stuff. So we're going to get some answers today. Kalani, please.
I have heard Eisenhower's speech many times, and it still rings through today. You know, I think we have why she chose neutrality. Why is the consciousness of Hawaiian thinking in neutrality? Because our traditional beliefs came to an understanding that war and the staff of life does not, you know, it is a great lesson. So in the Hawaiian culture, we chose the staff of life. It took me many years in understanding in Uncle's teaching that, you know, that maloa kalima haka haka do upu. If you don't put your hand in the soil, nothing comes forth. So we made a piece of land a sanctuary. It's called a puhonua. And that puhonua also recognized the sovereignty of that kingdom. That's why Kaakili wanted, you know, the chief of Oahu to give the sovereign land of Kualoa to him for raising him. Okay, so we have an identity to this neutrality. And that's why the puhonua was neutral. When you came in there, you had sanctuary. So imagine today, if we as a world peace, and I love your letter that you wrote. Just loved it. That neutrality of peace is based in the ancient sovereignty of the land. It's based that we have a sanctuary where if the Alis are fighting, okay, and destroying everything, that puhonua still can replant after that, okay? And then although they're not involved in it, they have sanctuary in that spiritual area. So can you imagine if the Gaza Strip had one sanctuary of peace that internationally recognized? Every country has a sanctuary internationally recognized as a sanctuary of peace. It was part of the discussion of Rubelite Johnson and many journalists many years ago when they were trying to use to find the puhonua as an example of a nuclear-free zone. That was it was a discussion back in many years ago about that. And the reason why is because, yes, we're our culture that saw even with our war, I mean, our abilities to fight, the overriding thing is that these spiritual land bases, the Puhonua, sacred land base, where we garden a garden for 7 generations. That's where the point of the true value of our history. Yet today, we push more of the warrior, you know. Yet Europe came to Hawaii to study how we did agriculture, how we planted, sweet potatoes in the sand on the beach or in the lava flats in Kona or in Kona. So there was so much by the Greenwell family on the Big Island that wrote about the Puhonuas and the ecological, the Kanawai, all those things we talk about in the Kumalipo, the evolutionary narrative that we have as a culture. So yes, there is, it's great to say peace, but when we say peace as a people, there's a land to it. And right now, that land is in jeopardy because the state wants that our spiritual land bases, the one that gave you sanctuary at Honau, they want it to be a cultural, to promote tourism. Okay, when we talked about Jimmy Fernandez, getting shut out of the Puhonua, and he walked in. I mean, when did it happen that our spiritual land base is now being manipulated by the state to say, hey, when you can come in and when you cannot? That was the reason why Lenny and I took the state to court on Mauna Kea, because they got people together to create cultural precedents. They said, okay, you can put an offering on your heiau, but by 4 o'clock you have to take it off. You see, where does that come under neutrality? Where does that come under the freedom? So in the Hawaiian culture, it's not a word. It is actually a place. It's actually a reason why it's there. Because we saw the food and staff of life is more important than taking a life. That's why in Lono's, the priesthood, you cannot take a life. In Ku, that priesthood, you can. Okay? But in Lono, you cannot. On the land, you cannot take a life. So we had this reverence to staff of life and survival that overrode the ego of war. That war was only in defense. Okay, and our language, not having a written language, that our understanding that the power is in the word. That's how we lived in that time. When the study in the temple, the one thing they take from you in our culture is your ho'oyoness. You understand that, Your Majesty.
Yes.
But that is what you're judged on first. You'll never enter into that study if they think you're ho'oyu. And for those of you who do not, the word ho'oyu means show off. The humility was recognized by your actions more than before you spoke. How you entered a room, where you sat, how you presented yourself. Okay, and then today, so yes, that idea of peace and sovereignty is in the land, is in the culture. It is the reason why Uncle Sam made that commitment as an indigenous religious practitioner. He was also a minister of Kalamakapili Church. Okay, so he literally, and fortunately for us, the federal government we can draw attention to it. We can put the indigenous faith on the table of faith. That yes, some faiths come from the heavens to the land, and some faiths come from the land to. When Christianity says out of the darkness into the light, out of the darkness in the heavens into the light. When we say it, we say out of the pole, the darkness of the sea, out of the light. Why? Because that's where the Kumulipo starts. Okay, so there's so much in the indigenous faith, especially of this indigenous culture, that the precedent was set. we're on the table of faith. Okay? That our temples, our understanding of 4 scientific elements is the reason of our neutrality. These four scientific, ocean, sun, fresh water. These are not debates about egos and war. This is about our children and generations to come. Okay? I find it to just you and I to have this knowledge, okay? And, you know, for the Temple of Lono and trying to share it, open it, you know, I gave up hope a long time ago until Lenny showed up and said, hey, you know, the Jews know what this is about. Okay, so when we went against, remember, when we went against the Mauna Kea, Lenny and I were accused of being ISIS radicals. Now, when the federal government tells you that you're an ISIS radical, and I'm looking at Lenny, we're just 2 guys from Puna. Okay? I mean, remember, when the federal government starts saying you're a terrorist, and that's about as close as they could get. And then to have the University of Hawaii, the one who printed it. And then the university lawyer in the case asks me, well, Frank, you know, you have the right to practice your faith, don't you? Well, how can I when you call me an ISIS radical? Okay? And today, now, we have this state, and you know, where we're pushing the identity of us as a culture. Okay? We forget that faith is what gives birth to a culture. It's not the other way around. So why is it that we have a great identity to our culture, but we do not have this knowledge and identity of the faith from which it comes from? And it took Uncle Sam, your family, and people who committed that all faiths to be on the table. And we should have a greater understanding of those indigenous faiths that starts with the earth and lifts to the heavens. It's the same understanding, but one gives precedence to our life support, this planet. You know, to live in a time when a gun is more important than the life of a child. Okay? When the land is used more for profit than to save a generation. No, and the letter you wrote and how you wrote it, I know that our ancestors are proud of that. It may sound simple. You know, what is this? Simplicity, peace, love. What is this? 60? No. This is an ancient commitment of a people. Ancient. And what Eisenhower said about this corporation, well, I'm sorry to say, but that is the largest corporation. Okay? And it has embarked a political party. We all know the Democrats are more towards the military. Republicans don't have to because they own the corporations. No, there has to be a strong change. And that letter, that's the change. And we can back it. We can back it with our cultural history. We can back it with our oral history. And there's only a few of us left that can tell that story.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I wrote the proclamation, it took me a long time to get the right words put together for that. Yet it was simple but difficult
It
because
was powerful. It was honest.
Yes.
It was done with a Hawaiian. So a lot of people ask me, well, you're a traditional, the king is a Mormon. What is this all about? Oh, no, you see, people always try to think, no, what we did as a people was our faith was a foundation on which you can build and injure your faith. Clean your own house first. That's why it was so hard why they had to make Christianity mandatory. Right now, I'm discussing with Ron Williams, it's on about the Mo'i Kolohi laws and how ancestral worship was banned. Then we take on this colonial history about, oh yeah, our religion was all pagan and sacrifice. When we judge, it's not based on the power. It's based on what you share. And we have forgotten how to share. So yes, your letter, there's no question to it. Can the human spirit live up to that consciousness today, Your Majesty? I will stand on that letter. Okay? There are many of our people want to know what is the faith of our ancestors, but a lot of them don't know. They think it's a culture that's lost. And if it wasn't for your family, Uncle Sam, to fight, okay, to make a point that we as an indigenous people have a reason of neutrality. Why did you pick neutrality? Kalakaua traveled and found out that idol worship is not a problem. Buddhism, okay? It's not a problem. He came back and said that to his sister. And in his inauguration, he gave reference to those 4 foundations of spiritual freedom. And that garden for 7 generations. That's more important than making a spear. In our beliefs, in our culture. And that's what Uncle Sam and why you are here and I am here and everyone is here. For this power that some people think, well, it's a little simplistic. No, not anymore. It is our contribution as a people that the true power of our culture is to love, to hold, and to share. That was what was taught to me at the Temple of Lono, at Iolaka'a, the sacred mountain. So, yes, we have a story to tell. We have a commitment. It's like the Lono, He rono, he ulu tamea ai o te pohi e honua. You, the God of earth, must provide the staff of life for the world. Not the Hawaiian people, the world. And that letter is that contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to Victoria? You're next.
Aloha, Your Majesty. Mahalo nui a oe. Aloha to everyone. This is a great, great subject matter. The letter, of course, Your Majesty, made even more understanding. For my mana'o is, first of all, you need to know who you are. You need to know where you came from. You need to understand your kupuna's hard work in their times. You know, they always bring the thing up, a child is raised by their parents. The reflection of the parents is the one that kind of molds the child. I feel that way. I'm a Kanaka Mo'ole Wahine. And a Kanaka Mo'ole Wahine We look into life very deeply because we are the ones that give life. We the ones that give birth to life. The most important thing, and I heard Shule say, center. We must always be centered. Knowing who you are, knowing where you came.
We lost her temporarily. She'll sign back in. Before she comes back in, I want to stop for a moment. This is one of my favorite reads from my cousin Liliuokalani. The cause of Hawaii and independence is larger and dearer than the life of any man connected with it. Love of country is deep-seated in the breast of every Hawaiian, whatever his station. She wrote that when she was unlawfully kept in prison in the Iolani Palace. And one of her things is that she rejected violence. She rejected the killing of anybody. She felt that two things. She felt as a person who have learned about Christ, have learned about Christianity. Those people, she would say, that espoused to be Christians and carrying Bible were the biggest hypocrites she ever met. Because they espoused one thing and did in her view, did hypocritical stuff that was unbecoming of a Christian at that time. So when she said, I will stand down in hopes of the enlightened government of the United States. So she knew that the government was kind of corrupt, but she was hoping that the enlightened side will reinstate her back to the position of queen. Well, that didn't happen in her generation. And many have come and gone ever since. But now it's our turn. And we're on the path of bringing the full circle of the beliefs of our kupunas, who Liliuokalani is, a kupuna, ili kupuna, to the current base we are right here today. The second thing that I want to quote from her is, and I thought this was profound to our subject matter here today. The people to whom your fathers told of the living God and taught to call Father, and whom the sons now seek to despoil and destroy, are crying aloud to him in their time of trouble, and he will keep his promises. Again, she was saying that if you believe that your Bible to be true, then why do you want to kill, hurt, maim? So history doesn't give you all the story, except when you hear from the mo'olelo, the stories from our parents and our parents before that, and grandparents would talk about the mo'olelo, the story behind Hawaii and the illegal overthrow. The queens wanted to be a person of the higher moral value and reject war and believe that the kingdom will be restored. Hence the reason why she stopped and she didn't want anybody to die. Now, fighting is easy. I don't know if you guys know that. Walking away from fighting is a difficult challenge. Especially when you know you're right and they're wrong. And you want to just make your point while you're wrong and I'm right. Doesn't matter. When you walk away, it brings a deeper meaning to your character. I will be the first to say it was very hard for me to walk away from any problem, but I had to learn to walk away, only because to fight would diminish the cause that I'm fighting for now. And that is based on my letter that I wrote, that I sent to all of you, the proclamation, and who we are as Kanaka Maole's Hawaiians that love our culture, love our ancestors, love everything, because our life is not vast. It's only a small piece here. and then you're gone. So you have to make the best use of your life. I'm going to, Jessica. As you know, the topic matter was regarding Eisenhower, what Queen Liliuokalani did, the military industrial complex, and the warning, and et cetera, that Eisenhower was a prophecy, if you will. Okay, what are your thoughts on that subject matter, Jessica?
Thank you for asking, Ali Nui Mo'i. I enjoy listening to all the different perspectives because we're hitting all angles of this issue. And I think my comments resonate a lot with Shule Marie's and what you were saying. Also, Your Majesty, going back to the root of humanity, as you said, it's very difficult to walk away from a fight. Anger is predisposed genetically in us to be dominant, or our default emotion, because it protects us when we're in fight or flight mode. So for us to move beyond anger requires us to, one, be aware of this, two, be willing and in a safe enough space to delve into what's going on inside of us, that we have this. Usually it's a fear, sometimes it's a sadness. Sadness is more painful than anger. So anger is easier than even sadness. And that's one aspect of it. Another genetic aspect of it that we have to move beyond is that quantitative research has demonstrated that infants prefer people that look like them, but also they push away, these are infants, people that don't look like them. So the implication there is that racism is genetically normal or genetically instilled in us, which requires us to redefine the term we. If we expose ourselves and our children to people of other looks, and we learn to redefine we as a broader concept and that we all look alike, and these things can help us. The other component about Eisenhower's address is that he recognized that a military industrial complex would control senators and representatives financially. Ultimately, these election campaigns need to get paid for, and no individual can pay for them. And if you start to listen to senators and congressmen, when they speak in general terms, they are often speaking on behalf of whatever lobby or industry got them elected, paid for their election campaigns through very corrupt and illegal means, but our systems for controlling that are not possible. Now, going back to your letter, Your Majesty, and being the king of righteousness, this theme of righteousness is what is required to move towards peace. And we go back to what Liliuokalani said, and prior to her, when the phrase the land is perpetuated in righteousness by another of your ancestors, the British government, prior to the events of 1893, the British government, an admiral took Hawaii, an admiral from England took Hawaii and took the flag down. But when news got back to England that this had been done, they fired that admiral and they sent, I think, an Admiral Marshall, is that correct? The correct name?
Yes.
Who said, no, that was not a righteous move. That was not enlightened, to use Liliuokalani's word. So England said Hawaii belongs to Hawaii, and they undid the bad thing. And so your cousin was waiting for the United States to act in an enlightened manner with all of its righteous ideals that they had written about equality and freedom. And I differentiate that from the way all of the ideals were implemented, because they were not implemented properly. So it also requires, and you could call it enlightenment, leaders who are actually focused on peace and doing the right thing, which is another term for righteousness. And I think that sums up what I wanted to say. But if you have questions, obviously, Ali Nuimoy or anyone in the audience, I'm open to your feedback.
First, we're talking about Paulette and
Yes,
we're talking about the Commandment of Third, King Commandment Third,
yes,
when he went out and he declared the land as being righteous, called Uamau Ke'ia o Ka'aina Ikupono. The land's perpetuated in righteousness. And that is what Lilio, my cousin, continued to follow through. But it goes even deeper than that, as Kalani mentioned in the Temple of Lono and Uncle Sam and the lessons and that was taught. These lessons that was taught to us is falling away. It's falling away. All the ancestral knowledge is falling away for whatever reason. And then my son will be talking about other things coming up. And it's our cause that we'll start bringing it back more and more each time. Bring back that which identifies who we are as an indigenous nation, who we are as a people. And that is very, very important and critical, is bringing back that identity, the customs, the traditions, and these things that make up who Hawaii is. Thank you, Jessica. Professor Mikel, how are you? Haven't seen you in a while. You're on mute.
you're muted, Miguel.
Oh, sorry. Fine, thank you, Your Majesty. I was away in China and Africa, but I'm back. I'll be here for a couple months, 2-3 months. Yes.
Was your trip successful?
Very, very. Yes, a lot of things are coming up in China that are important with all the financial and terrorist situation that's going on, and I hope that everything turns out well. At least I was able to explain what I think about that at the different universities, and I think people understand more. As I said to them, we have to understand our perspectives from U.S. and China, what we are. We have to know each other. We have to understand each other and understand that there are different concerns. And the president is our president, and we have to follow what he says. But until Congress does anything about it, there's nothing we can do. And it's just a matter of negotiating. And I think that I think and hope that he negotiates a lot of things, because a lot of hurt has happened here financially to a lot of people that I know about in the stock market. So they've been hurt quite a bit, and decisions that are not the appropriate ones economically, I think. But that's politics. So that's
Thank you. Welcome back. Abel, your thoughts on Eisenhower and what you've heard thus far? What is your manao?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Aloha.
Right off the bat, what struck me as kind of interesting is they annually spent on military security more than the net income of all United States corporations that year in 1961, when he did the speech. That indicates just a huge sales angle on war and death, which is just, terrible. War is definitely probably the biggest waste ever, from human life to resources diverted to the taking of more lives, to how it hits the land and the people and the culture, the structures and information and people's histories get wiped away. And it's usually for power control or land acquisition, that expansion, trying to own stuff. When we all don't own anything, we're drawing invisible lines on a map and not giving people a place to live. Being born on Earth, right, it's all our honua. We're born here in whatever place. Having to pay for that is a really not the best idea. I don't think, it's not super fair to everybody. There should be puhonuas all over. I mean, that in Gaza would be awesome, like some type of shelter for people that can get in there and need it. But I mean, places like that all over the world. I did some memorials for the World War veterans too, and the Vietnam War. And speaking to the veterans there, my uncle Billy Fields and Melby Hassa, they were dropped in young, drafted, and just, it was just hell for them, for sure. They're kind of fighting off communism, but also the Vietnam in their own home. There's a mixed feeling. My uncle was dropped in about 17 and just to the front lines, and, they had to fight hard. They were really fighting more for the freedom of America, kind of what it stood for at their time, which has kind of changed as what they told me. One of my uncles was a military helicopter pilot. He's a gunner. And he was telling me how I don't like seeing these skirmishes over war or over money, basically, right? We're probably all avoiding the name, but like Halliburton, JPL, a lot of those contracts, the U.S. government allocating $2 to $4 trillion this year for the Department of Defense budget, while slashing things like education for the kids and, more land acquisition, more petroleum drilling. We're like, that's like not really a good fuel. We learned that a long time ago. I mean, we're moving past it already with electric batteries and hydrogen power, solar power, things like that. So being Akamai and thinking of new resources and then sharing them freely helps to tone down the greed, I think. If we can lead, we lead by peace, not by fear. We're not like peaceful, only because you're intimidating us or something of that nature. It's peace from a deeper place, like this is what's right, and being peaceful and standing peaceful, like a peaceful monk warrior type, is very difficult sometimes. Like the king said, sometimes not fighting is a lot harder than, taking out your emotions, basically, or, in some of these actual wars, clash of views or, greed, various things. But if it's not somebody, protecting your home is one thing. And, again, certain ideologies for sure, communism and the Nazi party was doing atrocious things. But now we want to hold the, corporate structures that we invest all of our money, that we buy stuff, accountable. When they're shooting $300,000 Sidewinder missiles at an air balloon for weather, that's like a kind of a big waste. I think that, yes, what we, what I see is that with that big of an expense for the Department of Defense, almost $4 trillion, and I don't see healthcare, things of that nature. I really think that this document the king has produced is just extra valuable and really describes kind of who we are as a people. I think the call for global peace is something everyone's kind of feeling, and I've been feeling for a while. And, working together and having some leadership and him being accountable to a higher power is, I think, a beautiful thing. We have a king who serves the people and the king. He's not just out there thinking about himself and willy-nilly about it, right? He's it's a big thing. So I think the document and a firm stand on peace, PTSD from all these wars, and free and affordable, especially to Native Hawaiians. That's like 100% where we start, and go from there. I mean, aloha is our foundation, and pono can also be translated to balance. So it's almost like the land is back in balance, also speaking from a less traditional translation of Wamauka Eoka Aini Kapono. It would be the land is balanced and happy. So it's also the land is perpetuated in righteousness. So yes, religion and spirituality for sure, but also fixing the water systems, not damaging the aquifers and diverting rivers to irrigate a golf course. Ireland has great golf. Go over there. Sorry, but there's a couple extras over here. Whatever. Smarter planning. Edible landscaping, including big, gardens and stuff like that. I think will give us the option to spend our dollar differently. Having a government like the Kingdom of Hawaii, where we could happily pay taxes as citizens and know that it's not going to war, is like a great thing. Like it's going towards a hospital. Income tax, sales tax. It's awesome. Whatever. It's hard being an American citizen, which I've grown up in, and I do feel blessed to have the freedoms that America provided, that our kupuna died for. A lot of the uncles and my father, myself, my mom, very proud Hawaiians, and then also very proud Americans, right? I didn't have a chance to grow up in the Kingdom of Hawaii, but I always knew and was taught that we are in it. And I've seen the struggle from, the pain my grandma felt all the way till today, 1893. It's been a long time that Hawaiians have been disconnected from their aina. And it could really help showing how, food production, taking care of each other, going with morals and values over profit. I think that's really where we have our foundation as our strength is we're not asking for anything but what's right. And, it's like the opposite. If Google and Apple, Google and GM ran in the White House and put guns to Trump's head and made him sign the annexation of China of the whole America, would that be legal? Just to make a kind of an analogy. Even worse, because the provisional government was farming our lands and they didn't want to pay their taxes. And Grover Cleveland, the president, was really against all that and reprimanded the ship involved and the men. And our queen was peaceful because Kamehameha, after he was done with the war campaign, what became a paia, the hard-shelled crab, where peace was perpetuated. The first kingdom I know that gave up war. I heard Japan announce it, and I was really stoked too, but they will not participate in war anymore. Once we start understanding these things, war is the biggest waste, 2 to 4 trillion. That's the type of money that could go back to redoing the planet. So kind of tone down on the guns and bombs production and, produce more medical supplies and food production, rebuilding our infrastructure, stuff like that can actually happen once we realize peace is the way. That's basically what I've been taught and learning still. So Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Chief Justice, aloha.
Aloha, Your Majesty. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. You're next.
Okay. Thank you. From your assignment, I put some real thought into it, and I actually put pen to paper in thinking about this and philosophers I've studied over the years. And I just have a brief statement that I think responds, that I've crafted, that I think responds to my thoughts, to your questions. And actually, I'll just post that. I just posted that in chat. So these are the words I came up with. True triumph transcends the tyranny of the sword. Wisdom wins where war wearies. A nation must nurture noble peace, yet willed wary power, ready to repel ruin when never rush to rage. Strength must, strength must serve serenity, and arms must answer only to the authentic call of defense, not the despotic drum of domination. That's my attitude toward the subject that we're talking about here. Historically, I got to thinking about, we all know how major, especially world conflicts have come out, World War I, World War II, other wars. And those things are easy to recall for obvious reasons. Humans seem to remember negative things easier and better, and pay attention more to highly negative things than positive things. An example of this exists in the marketing world. Any kind of feedback that you get, positive or negative feedback on any kind of product or thing or agenda that's trying to be pushed forward, negative feedback always drowns out positive feedback. Humans are more negative. They're more vocal when in wanting to share negativity. And so that has an effect on the collective human consciousness. And so just take this into consideration as I go through some of these historical examples and whether or not all of you are aware of these, and don't feel bad if you're not. That's not my point. If I'm right, and if a lot of what I'm going to go through here in just a second, you're not aware of, that just underlies the point that I made, that we as humans, even when we study history, we pay more attention to the negative things. So where and when in the world has peace overcome as opposed to war? And there, I think, are very few examples of where war, well, one could argue that war never leads to anything good. But if for this mind experiment, if we define good as our nation, whatever nation you belong to, our nation remains safe, we were the victors, our nation came out on top, and we got to write the history of things after winning a war. If that's how you define success, what I would posit is there are only very few examples of where that good outcome, I'm not defining that necessarily as good, but politicians would define that as good. But the question I have is, and I'm going to go through some historical examples, when, how, and where has peace actually won? Because war really hasn't really produced any good results for anybody. So the first one that I thought of is the meeting of Pope Leo I and Attila the Hun. I'm sure that all of you know the name Attila the Hun, but Attila the Hun was marching on Rome. He had devastated much of Italy. Rome was weak at that time and vulnerable, and Rome seemed to be doomed. Pope Leo I personally went out and met with Attila the Hun and negotiated with him. And the result of that was Attila withdrew his army. Now you have to think of the resources that had to be committed to march armies back in that time of history. So Attila withdraws his armies and he did not sack Rome. The takeaway is no army stopped Attila the Hun, rather human care, concern, negotiation, mutual understanding, peaceful negotiation. One that you'll all know to a degree, I'm sure, is Gandhi. Without any violence whatsoever through his movement in 1947. India was able to gain its independence. Prior to that, had been under British rule. The Cold War's end, often credited to President Reagan and Gorbachev and their peace talks. And one of my favorites is the Peace of Westphalia. Is anyone of Viking descent? So, you know, the much feared Vikings, I like a lot of the Viking shows. There are a lot of them on Netflix. And the Vikings are very interesting people. Trying to see who it was. Was there a major person that, where is this? So it was after the 30 Years' War. Entire populations were devastated. Nations were on the verge of collapse. Multiple major powers, including Spain, France, the Holy Roman Empire, and Sweden, sat down for long peace negotiations. They signed the Peace of Westphalia, ending the wars and creating a new system of national sovereignty, which actually set up some of the current government structures that exist in Europe today. Point I'm making is the historical references seem to show that peace and care and concern for other humans, even those that are marching on you to potentially try to conquer you, seems to be more powerful than waging war. I do believe, I'm a person personally that believes that you do need to have a defense. I'm former military. I would have a hard time wrapping my head around having absolutely no ability to repel someone who comes trying to conquer. But typically, it seems at any one given point in time in history, there's always, it seems, one nation or one conqueror that's more powerful than others. And other than that one, all others really don't stand a chance. And the only reliance they have and can rely on securely is you know, the ability to communicate, the ability to engage in human interrelations and to plead for peace. I think the United States is a very, very, very different animal than the Kingdom of Hawaii. I think for the most part, the United States course is set. I think it would take a tremendously long time to change the culture with regard to the United States and how it sees, and the United States wouldn't use the word conquering or imperialism. They wouldn't, people in the United States that are engaging in those things wouldn't accept those terms of use. But the Kingdom of Hawaii is entirely a different thing. And possibly if we can show in powerful ways that peace is a more reliable way forward, we might be able to bring the rest of the world along. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I normally would like to sum up everything here, but I think everybody had, well, actually, I know everyone had some very good input to the reason why I brought Eisenhower up and what have you. And I'm glad to see that most of you had gone through do some research into this whole endeavor here. Dustin and Amy, do you folks have any thoughts to our subject matter before we go on through the agenda?
Sure. Actually, I think that Abel really started to touch on exactly where this is probably going. So basically, if you look at it from a historical standpoint, what I think that Eisenhower was doing was giving a warning. And the warning was the transition of the military that we had to the military that we're turning and transforming into. So what we used to be the peacekeepers to the world. We used to be the leading hope, the shining star of what everybody wanted to be and where everybody wanted to go. And Eisenhower saw, because he was at the beginning of that transition, that the dark projects, the systems that are below the systems, the undocumented through the Senate or Congress programs, all of that started during Eisenhower. And then Kennedy, and we saw what happened there. And then Nixon came in as, helping that system. And then Carter, right after that, gave one of the most profound speeches of warning of the military complex, because our military has shifted from peacekeepers of the world into the profiteering and subgroups that are controlling the entire military complex. And what that's doing is we're now having that shift into creating regions and territories that are completely separate from any conflict that the people or the Senate or Congress would ever truly agree to. So I think that what Eisenhower was really trying to say was, we have to watch these subgroups. We have to watch what our 3-letter acronym groups are doing with the military complex, because it is rampant and it's out of control. And the core source of what our country was as a military complex has shifted so dramatically that we don't even really have our troops go into a lot of these conflicts anymore. It's easier just to hire some mercs. So I think that a lot of that is part of that transition. And then look at the societal changes that has happened since the 50s till now. Look at the goodwill towards mankind from the 50s to the 80s and then into the 2000s. It has completely shifted dramatically. And I think a lot of that has to do with the tolerance of entities, where before it was like most of the people in our group here, it's about peace, it's about love, it's about harmony. But the problem is that that's not the world that's in control of our world now. And we have to face that reality. How do we work with that? How do we organize with that? How do we reverse that? And, the answer is obviously that we have to rise above it. But in the meantime, how do you defend against something that's coming with you with an axe? You can't necessarily just smile, because smiling isn't going to help somebody that's coming with you with an axe. So how do we have our own defense systems? Or let me rephrase that, because that's not the appropriate term. How do you create change in a system that is based on evil practices that go against so much of everything that so much of the population wants to believe in? And it transitions not only to the humanity side of it, but also the technology side, because it comes down to control. And that's what all of this winds up coming back around to, is control. Think about all the technologies. And I'm in the technology world. Think of all the technologies that have been suppressed. I've had 5 attempts on my life since 2001. 5. How many people can say that they have had hit squads come out to kill them? I have had 5 attempts on my life since 2001, because of the technology that I try to bring out. I've learned my lesson, and I back off a lot of those technologies, but that is what the suppression of life is. Our world would be a much different place if the freedoms that we had in the 50s were the freedoms that we have in 2025. There would be free technology, free information, there would be true knowledge, and it's just not there. And trying to get that back is going to be one of the biggest challenges that I think that we're going to have in our generation and generations in the future, because they're not going to relinquish control. They're not going to let things go. And as much as we think that, just good-heartedness is going to change the world, it might a little bit if we own our own community. But how do you create that global change? And that is the question that I don't know if we really have an answer to, Your Majesty.
Yes, we do.
We can try to bring unity. We can try to create knowledge. We can try to create information. But it's really about who's in power and who has the power to wield that sword. And unfortunately, we don't. It's the people that have the weapons. It's the people that have the ability to hurt, because that is the permanent lodging, like Abel was just saying, people coming back with post-traumatic stress disorders. It is a permanent effect just from having a battle. But this is the battle that they're in, and we're not. So how do you fight a battle that you are only halfway even in? And I'll let Amy go the other route. with
Yeah,
that.
so I'll summarize. I thought that was one of the best farewell speeches ever written by a president. And to summarize, I got quite a few points out of it. The first point I thought he made a good comment about was time. The essence of time, meaning living for today, for ease and consideration, but sacrificing everything for tomorrow, which goes along with point 2 of technology. The technology that has come out, mainly cell phones, TVs, smart TVs, instant access, it becomes very demanding because now the technology is taking away from family time, from normal hours, from having to have everything right then and right there, and living for instant gratification, which takes away a lot from the family values. He also talked about equality among the races, meaning the weak need to get stronger. Unfortunately, where we live today, the power continues to get stronger and stronger at the top with the bad guys, and the weak get weaker because they're purposely designing the system that way. So equality is big among all races, and it's necessary to maintain balance. We have lost our balance. The third is strength in faith. He said, one must be very strong in faith, pray, have faith and inspiration. What have we done? We've taken away prayer in the schools. We've taken away prayer in families and businesses. And it's just become, the technology has become the prevalent over our strength in faith and inspiration. We used to know our neighbor. We used to say hello. We used to have dinners together. Now it's, constantly cell phone, cell phone, cell phone. We don't even talk to people anymore. We actually text them, which is losing all sense of camaraderie. The last thing he said is the sadness of war. War does not bring about peace, but one must maintain stronghold, and I do agree with that, but the war does not bring peace. And from there, if you look at the main points of his speech, he was trying to warn us, and unfortunately, the world did not listen. In fact, it almost appears that the world did just the opposite of what he tried to warn us about. So that is the summary I got from his speech, which I thought was phenomenal.
Thank you, both of you. I'm going to address Destin's concern about what do we do. Hence our vision, Destin and everyone here, is building our peace center, bring the world leaders together to talk about ways to build their economy, their technology, if you will, to take them off the mindset of war and talk about being service to the people that they're supposedly elected to protect and guide. So our peace complex is the first step into our vision moving forward. Is gathering this, and it is the goal is to put it's a pu'uhonua into all countries, where it's a safety place for all countries. People can go and find safety and without being concerned about one's life or where what's going to happen to them. In our culture, the pu'uhonua was that beautiful sanctuary of where people actually found peace. The warriors found peace. The non-combatives found peace. The wife found peace, or the husband or children. Everybody found peace. And the sanctuary was supported by the king. So anybody that reached the Pu'uhonua were safe and protected under the banner of the king. So the peace complex that we're moving forward will have a celestial council there. And from there, we're going to be working to all nations regarding the vision of peace, healing, reconciliation, living in harmony with nature, the natural world, with the human family, and with God. These are so important that since 2002, we've been moving forward. My letter that was mentioned, I received several support from Middle Eastern leaders, kings, and so forth, that they would like to move forward and have a peace summit conference. So that is now being worked on as we speak. The date and time has not been mentioned as yet, but the idea of them coming together from Israel to Syria to Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, all of them coming together will be a magnificent time for the world, at least to bring peace first, beginning in the Middle East, and then hopefully bring peace between Russia and Ukraine, peace between China and Taiwan, peace with all of these entities that we're talking about. I am realistic to understand that sometimes talking doesn't really work. We know that. But neither is pointing a rifle at someone's head either. So there has to be a middle ground. That middle ground is our peace complex, peace center that we're building. That's the middle ground that I've seen in visions. So that is the surer way that I feel that we're hopefully bring the world together. That is my hope.
Well, Your Majesty, you've heard me in every one of our conversations, and that's the exact reason why I want to bring the technology into the peace centers that we've been working on so desperately, because honestly, there isn't another answer that I can see in any way that we try to look at it other than giving to give and uplifting people's lives. So
I
that
agree.
they don't have the desperation that they have. But at the same time, I feel that we also have to look at what is empowerment that is currently empowered. So while we empower people, we're going to have those powers that are going to be working against us. So we have to know what we're working with and what we're working against, and who's going to want us to have the upliftment to be able to bring the people up, because that's going to be limiting the control that others have. So as we succeed, there's going to be more engagement from the other side to slow us down. And we just have to realize that as a council and a community, that while we do more work and as we do better work, it's going to get realized. It's going to be noticed. We're going to create change in this world. We are. But we have to be ready for what that means.
And I agree. Do you know, you ever saw the movie of Sergeant York? Have you guys seen that movie, Sergeant York? Google that.
I did.
Sergeant York is a true story. He was a conscientious objector, didn't like war, but he wanted to serve in the war. Then he killed many Germans at that time, and the major says, why? I mean, he just said you don't want to kill anybody. Why? What you should do? He said, I wasn't killing them. I was taking out the guns that was killing the people. So in his mind, he was taking out the guns, not so much the person operating the guns. In my concept of things as a warrior, as a fighter, I look at it, with this, there's many things can happen. You can win the fight temporarily, but then it can escalate into a larger and broader fight that we need to overcome one day. And the only way you can see is our peace center, building that, the technology you talked about. As we build that, they'll come, and having all the world leaders, all the religious leaders come. The first one be home in Hawaii, and then the Pu'uhonua and many other countries that will be there. But that is my nuclear bomb, is a peace center, is a peace, hold on one second, it's a peace aspect. Thank you, Johnson. Thank you, Amy. Anybody have any questions to what was discussed? Michael,
Yes,
did you?
it's about humanity. I think we have lost the consciousness of what it is to be human. One of the things about the Pu'unua was the priority was not the Kane, the Wahine. It's the end result is our human consciousness. We say, we, like Jessica said, we see people of different color or different race. But like in your letter, it's about recognizing the human.
Yes.
The land is providing righteousness, and the molelo, the law of that God is it must provide the stuff of life for the world. It all connects. Okay, and it's about and Ohana and family brings out the consciousness to be human. And all churches is about humans, about being a human. So when we start to change the narrative to recognize ourselves as human beings, not as just individuals, and that hopefully, this our peace consciousness and your peace consciousness and peace work, draws our understanding of what it is to be human. That is what we're losing. We're getting into the technology and everything, and it's all about me and I. But where's the human? When I was asked the question, what is the power in this culture? What do we call power? He said, to love, to hold, and to share. Hello? Hello? What did you say? To love, to hold, and to share? Seriously, that's human. That's our human consciousness. We've lost that. We see things as things, people, places, and that's why I saw that what you were drawing in that letter was to draw a human consciousness that we need to have. Again, so.
Thank you. Michael, you had something you wanted to say real quickly?
Yes, Your Majesty. I believe that the things we're talking about, it comes down to the individual and the human and the life that we all get to share in our own dispensations, because we're just seeing, what's happened in our lifetime, and we're talking about what's happened in Eisenhower's lifetime, but there's so many of us that have been here on earth with breath and life, and we're one. We're all one. And
yes,
you talk about the weapons in the war and the people that benefit from it. When you really dig into that, it's just individual pockets of secret combinations. Maybe it's the Northrop Grummans or the different military complex, and then it turns into oil, and then it turns into supply chain, and then it turns into shipping routes, and then trade issues. And then they talk about how terrorism will stop trade issues. But really, no, it's the basic simple that we're human. Exactly what you're saying. But how can the human be able to regain their voice, their experience, their life? How can they prove through intelligently organized technology that they are themselves, that they can own themselves? And as we're living through this new ecosystem of artificial intelligence that'll open the door to the ability to actually link life, the digital life and the physical life, the conscience and the biological, the human, what we call human. And we've lived through the last 6 years of transhumanism, where we're actually thinking that we can play creator and modify cellular levels, which really we talk about, what is this that we're fighting? We're fighting centralized secret combinations that are intelligently working together. But through decentralization, the individual can have a voice again, can have a choice again, can have liberty that I don't even think we've really experienced in this generation and dispensation, and definitely not in the last decade. But I really believe that intelligently integrated technology that puts the human first the life and the proof of the individual, because we're going to continue to see identity fraud and deep fakes and cloning, but there will be a solution. There is a solution. And the Kingdom of Hawaii, in my opinion, is the first generation of Kanaka Maori. If you back up and you look at Kanaka Maori or Hawaiians, and you look at just the brilliance. For instance, if you go to the archives that's right next to the Queen's Palace, you go to the archives and you look at what they were doing before they were taken over. It's kind of a snapshot in time. You go back and you look at the land records and how organized they really were. In my opinion, if we really, and this is what's happening, if we fast forward and we say, what would they be doing today? They are us. This is today. And the technology that currently enables, people talk about all this financial system and these games and these stock markets, and really they're just all legalized gambling in some form or another. But when we look at technology that can free the individual, it must give them their identity back, and is the core that the Kingdom of Hawaii currently is built on. Many of us don't even understand what it is. Many of us may not even understand that our voice can now be heard. Our ability to interact with these new digital systems can now be simple. We don't even need to. Most of us on this call would struggle with a basic username and password login sequence to remember for the next session. It's all gone. It's all simple. How can financial transactions such as the Hawaiian dollar be able to be realized and given to all of humanity with a real asset, with a real system that can actually replace and augment the existing system by not even saying we got to walk away from the current financial system, but we use the current financial system to actually prove who we are in the future financial systems.
Yeah, hold on 1 second, Michael.
Go ahead.
Barbara, you had, I'm going to bring Barbara on. She's the Minister of Treasury. So Barbara, please. You're on mute. Thank you.
Majesty. Michael, respectfully, I really would like us to reserve any conversations about other currencies that might be investigated in this environment, because we are right now involved and engaged in funding on with an international perspective. Excuse me. Let me turn my phone.
Happy to pause and engage anytime you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Because of where we are right now, things have shifted. And just as it's shifted here in these meetings, where we're all talking to each other from the heart, I find this to be very unguarded. There are times when things are said that we need to be careful about. And we are right now in an application process with major banks in the world, and to finally achieve and receive the funding that's so needed for all of these things that we're discussing, whether it's the peace meetings in the Middle East, whether it's the technologies, whether it's improvements in infrastructure in Lahaina, Maui generally, and assisting the Hawaiian people finally to have some footing again. Now, His Majesty 2 weeks ago brought to my attention that he had taken some very large steps with his son, the Crown Prince, to advance us in this project through Amy and Dustin and relationships they had, that we were finally really in a very strong position to achieve our financial goals. And I'm sorry if I'm speaking in such generalities, but I have to. And so we are now in the application process to becoming clients of these top banks so that we can be funded and everything is set in motion. And not only is the structure the acceptance by the global financial institutions moving forward, and we are being accepted. But at the same time, we have to be very careful what we say in to be able to finalize this. We have about, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks to go before we actually see the monies that we have been looking for, the first monies for project finance and also any other emergencies that we have to meet. So I'm very happy to tell you that I'm excited. I'm excited to be in these meetings, that they're really alive. And what we're fighting against is the indoctrinated brain, to become just another form of the systems we're trying to get away from. And we're very fortunate also to have a kahuna, to have Frank on our council to really share with us his experience and wisdom, because there are things I did not know. And so, Your Majesty, I'm happy to say that, even though I'm a little tired because I've been on the phones morning and night with Amy and Dustin, with bankers, and we're getting this sorted out where we see great strides. And thank you for your contribution, and the Crown Prince, thank you for yours as well. We couldn't have done it without you. So thank you. Your Majesty, over to you. I can't hear. You're on mute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Barbara's doing a great job as our treasury. I put her in temporary position, but she's now taking over more so than a temporary person. But she has been a key component in bringing together the body of people necessary for this project that she has, her and Dustin and Amy has been working on. Amy, do you have anything to add to Barbara's presentation?
A lot of the same things. So one, I'd like to thank you for stepping up to the table and recognizing what was needed. And then also the Crown Prince stepping in the emergency. So you two have been very instrumental, and I want to thank you for trusting in us. And then also I'd like to thank Barbara for having the right judgment of who to go to, because we had several parties that could have taken us into the banking system. And she had experience already having working with some of these parties. And so we ended up with the perfect mix with the assets coming from the same Swiss bank that she had the connections with on the monetization side. So we were able to bring in a good amount of assets, and they're bringing more assets in now, but they realize the connections that we have and just putting together. So the future looks very bright. It's a couple weeks of constant struggle and a big due diligence and compliance. We have to put all the projects into the mix to get qualified for the size that we're looking for. But all in all, we're really pleased. Things are moving light speed ahead, and things are looking very, very strong. So it was a team effort by everybody here, and I am really looking forward to getting everything completed and started. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Barbara. It's been a while. I'm glad that we've had these meetings, and we'll continue to have many meetings. But now we're now at the goal line. We're at the goal line, I guess is a better way of saying it. To which I've instructed our Attorney General to bring together, this is sent to me, the draft for contracts and et cetera. Secretary General, are you there? Jabbar?
I'm here, Your Majesty. Yes, I'm going to work on the contracts as a first draft, and going to run it through you and Chief Justice and also Attorney Lanny. And right now, I'm going to start over the weekend, and probably it will reach you the first half of next week, Your Majesty.
Thank you. Barbara, I'm really grateful for all the work you're doing. And I'm glad you're smarter than I am in that field. I really suck, but I'm glad that you're brighter than me. I can't be good at everything, I must admit.
I would like to say something, Your Majesty, which is I left Dustin out, unfortunately, my lovely partner. And it was because his team, his operational team and his contracting team were phenomenal. They put together, how many projects? In order to get the funding, we had to have all the projects put together. We now have a 300-page book with all the summaries of all the projects, and they put it all together in about a week's time frame. And that is one of the biggest reasons we got accepted at the banking in Europe, because they loved all the projects. So I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, no, I was getting to hint, but let me finish with Barbara. Thank you, Barbara, for everything you've done. Yeah, you're incredible. And thank you, Amy, and now Dustin. The ever onward, right? Moving forward. Now that we're coming close to seeing that the battle is almost over here. Barbara, you had something to say?
Well, as I said to you, Your Majesty, if you hadn't have shown up, I would have never been able to use these tools in my toolbox. They were just sort of sitting there, and I kept on saying, well, I know how to do these things, but I don't have any purpose to do them for. And now you've given me purpose. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. I would like to, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just push first on. I don't see Dr. Carl Robinson. Is he there? Okay, I'm gonna pick on the Crown Prince. Okay, son, take it away.
Hey, everyone. Oh, did you want me to jump into what you were in the email about the negative experiences?
Yes.
Well, I think, and real quick, is today Auntie Victoria's birthday?
It is. Well, we're gonna sing happy birthday to her. By the way, it's Auntie Victoria's birthday.
I just was happy birthday.
Well, no, we're gonna sing later. We'll sing happy birthday to her. So you guys, make sure you gargle with whatever you need to gargle with, because I want you full voice. Full voice.
But I mean, I wrote some notes down on things, and I think that most people here probably understand in general what's going on. I mean, it's kind of it's the same things, but just getting worse. I know that my dad had asked about talking about overdevelopment, excessive cars and traffic, overpopulation. And all that is happening. I actually found an interesting statistic about Native Hawaiians and how many Hawaiians live in Hawaii. And I don't know how fully accurate it is, but it seems like give or take there's about 700,000 Native Hawaiians. The population in Hawaii is about 1.5 million. And less than 50% of Hawaiians actually live in Hawaii. So based off the population of the numbers, only about less than 22% of the entire Hawaii population are actually Hawaiians, which I thought was pretty interesting statistically. And I think everyone kind of understands here just the basic economical issues going on with the state in general. For one, the state the government is definitely questionable. I think that, but I think a lot of the reasons, Hawaiians are leaving, it's basic, but it makes sense. I mean, it's the lack of affordable housing, the lack of available lands, inflated pricing, cost of goods, the fact that I know Michael brought it up, I think in the past few meetings, that roughly 80% of all the things that are consumed here are flown in. When Hawaii has this major infrastructure to build and develop whatever we want, I saw another statistic that a lot of, like when we go to the grocery store to buy pineapples, for example, most of those are not from here. Even though we have pineapple fields all over the place, the pineapples that we're eating are coming from like California. are all over, and it's just I don't even understand how that works or why, but that's the reality, you know. And I think that, you know, with the projects that are coming up and the funding, it will provide the opportunities that are missing, which is a major catalyst, I think, of why people are leaving, right? I mean, you're talking about these, you know, there's limited, you know, economic opportunities. You know, the wages here are low. There's underdevelopment of like technologies, manufacturing, the finance, you know, so the amount of job opportunities and income to debt ratios and everything here is so skewed that it makes it unfeasible unless you already come here with a lot of money or you're a big business or a monopoly. You know, I was talking to my dad about it, and I mentioned it, I think, in our last meeting, that, you know, a lot of these smaller operations are not getting the support that they need. And because the majority of all the lands are owned by people that are not from here, they control the pricing, they control the, you know, they basically control everything, you know, and it makes it difficult for small local businesses to be successful because of the lack of resources. And, you know, you're looking at how the government is here currently, the misuse of funds, you know, I mean, there's so many, you know, unfortunately, there's politically, especially in Hawaii, that I've noticed is that, you know, it's politicians and all the other people out here. It really isn't about the people. It's about lining their own pockets, right? I mean, for me, for example, like permitting, you know, local construction companies, all these people, they have such a difficult time trying to get jobs, trying to get permits, trying to build, because they're pushed to the side while big corporations like Alexander and Baldwin and Target and all these big guys, they can get a permit, no problem. It took me 3 years just to get a permit to enclose our patio deck at our house. So there definitely is a you know, there's an interesting dynamic going on there. I talked to a friend of mine, like with the University of Hawaii, and we had a nice conversation for a while, and he was talking to me about the misuse of funds. For example, how they use them for building roads. There's a roundabout that was built not too far away from where I live, to kind of alleviate traffic. It costs, I think, almost $6 billion to build that, and the traffic's worse. all they had to do was put a turn lane and maybe a light, but that didn't happen. It took almost a year, I think, to build. People don't know how to use it. The traffic is worse. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, is that the best way to use money to do things like that? And obviously there was, I'm sure, a contractual agreement that benefited the ones that are probably not using the roundabout. So, you know, with that being said, you know, these projects that we're doing, I think it's the, you know, the reason I think that a lot of the Hawaiians especially are leaving, in a nutshell, is just because of the current, like, low quality of life and opportunities that's currently available here. I mean, from, you know, workforce shortages, high education costs, traffic, you know, people working 3-4 jobs just to pay the bills. I mean, I don't know if anyone realizes out here that the median rent in Hawaii is $1,800 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. I mean, currently we have, from the research that I've found, is that, I mean, currently we have pretty much the most expensive rental market in the United States. And as far as our electric, and I know there's a lot of projects and things that can fix that, but currently our electric rates here in Hawaii are over 3 times the national average for electricity. You know, in my household, just between myself, my wife, and my daughter, we're paying $600-700 a month in electric bills, which I can't imagine a family of 5 or 6 what their electric bills are, you know. And so those are major reasons and catalysts why people are going elsewhere, because it's really difficult. The ones that have the means, it's great for them, right? I mean, they can do that, doesn't affect. But for the majority of the people, and especially, Hawaiians locally, because of those reasons, that pretty much in a nutshell is why it's the ones that are here are struggling. And then there's the ones that leave because of just the lack of resources and opportunities. So, I think that, and I don't know, Dad, what else you want me to cover from there, but I think that kind of explains where we are now. And that's why I'm so excited about these projects. And because I really feel that with the Peace Center, and all the other stuff and the projects, that's going to, it will bring people back, and it will provide the opportunities that people are looking for, and I think it'll be a less reliance on tourism for money. I mean, that's a huge moneymaker for certain people, not for others. Focusing on more manufacturing, energy technologies. There's no reason anybody should be paying that much for electricity, no matter where in the world. Higher salaries for teachers, better, education, better, more land acquisition, so Hawaii can become more self-sustainable and not rely so much on imports. Because I feel that I have so many ideas of ways that we could utilize the lands and our people, the culture, to create things that we haven't been able to do before because of the suppression that everybody has been under. And like I say, and I think Abel just said, basically Hawaii, Hawaiians have been priced out of Hawaii. And I'm hope, and I think that what we're doing is going to change that. Is there anything else you want me to cover?
Mm-hmm. No, you're doing a good job, son.
I think, and I just had a quick thing when we're talking about the war and everything, and I do believe that, like how my dad said, the Peace Center is the key, and I think that, more people and countries want peace over war. And kind of in my opinion, war is a game. And I think that, and I'll leave this with this last quote, but I don't know if everybody remembers that 80s movie War Games. But at the end, the number one take from that movie was that as far as war is concerned, the only winning move is not to play. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's pretty good, son. Thank you. That's right. It's not to play in the war games. Thank you. We've been talking about the peace complex, and I saved the best for last. Rhett, who's he's not an architect, but he has the tools that enables him to create the vision that I've given him to put together as far as the complex is concerned, and the components of it, and why it's so essential to have that built and have satellites, if you will, and that would be every country that will have our peace center there will be under treaties with the Kingdom of Hawaii, the treaties of peace, healing, reconciliation, the freedom, the treaty of friendship. So every country will enter into a treaty with the kingdom, allowing us the opportunity to go into all these nations and even our court systems and what have you. Dr. Cox, you had something you'd like to say?
I was going to add on to where Kelly was speaking earlier on about the local people being pushed out. We need to pay a lot more notice to homelessness, welfare, water rights, production rights, land rights, education, immediate health, job opportunities, and immediate disaster management. Even yesterday, just because the rich and famous doesn't like them to be around, more than 100 homeless people got up and thrown straight out from Diamond Head off to goodness knows wherever, so that the rich could have their street look still overpriced and whatever else the case is. And when you looked on the data of who was living around the area, they had nothing to do with Hawaii. They were all people that had come over there from New York and wherever else not. So coming from outside and literally pushing the people that is in there out of their homes, out and about. So by concentrating a lot more on humanitarian efforts for the local subjects, we can actually inform people and bring historical and geological archives into our Peace Center and add humanitarian efforts through the Peace Center with information, education, faith, community outreach, immediate health necessities, homelessness, those sorts of things via the Peace Center without causing political conflict, is what I was going to add to what Kelly was saying. So obviously I've spent more than 35, 40 years on humanitarian efforts all around the globe. And the basic human rights of the indigenous people should always come upmost to our efforts, our own subjects' welfare, and how we approach them and how we deal with their needs. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your input. Son, thank you for yours. You have anything else you'd like? I sent videos out for you folks to see. There was one particular video where the producer asked questions and where people were homeless and so forth and so on. You have to ask yourself, why are they homeless? Why isn't the state, the current state, not taking care of its indigenous people? Well, the answer is very clear. That they don't feel that's their job. And that being said, we're going to be answering those questions soon.
Well, the homelessness thing, that is an interesting subject because, my wife works downtown, and in downtown Honolulu, there is a huge amount of homeless people. But what's interesting is they're not from here. And that is one thing that I wasn't able to grasp. I know there's been a lot of, I don't know about the other islands per se, but I know on Oahu in general, she tells me she sees different faces weekly of homeless people that are just kind of roaming around on the streets. And they're obviously coming from somewhere, not here, where I don't know, why I don't know, and how I don't know. But that's another whole interesting subject that that I think definitely needs to be looked into.
What a bad policy too, huh, Kaylee? The guys, people that need the most help and care and stuff, they just deport them to somewhere else. Be like,
over here,
our numbers that way.
So they send them here to nice weather, and then all the Hawaiians leave because there's nowhere else to go. I mean, it's definitely it's definitely backwards.
Like Babu said, I'm not homeless. I'm just houseless. This is my home.
Well, I mean, hey, we find a way, right? The best that we can,
Thank you.
With what we have. But
we are trying.
Hopefully down the line, that will all change, and everybody will have the the opportunities they deserve to grow and to prosper.
At least to
That's
live the way
important.
we want to, you know, a few hours at a time getting restored, you know, produce.
Yeah, with that, I don't know
food
if you
production going
saw,
on.
yeah, if you saw it here, it was on the Kaneohe side, Brenton Ava, he was down that stretch towards Kahalu side over here. There's just kind of land on the side of the road that wasn't being used for anything. I mean, can't really be, you know, developed, but he was fighting forever just to try to plant fruit trees that people like just for the public. And
I got
so
a bunch of papayas going.
yeah, so they
to do
went,
that.
I don't know how long it took, but I know he was fighting the system forever. And all he wanted to do was plant some trees down a maybe 1 mile strip. He finally pushed it through. They got a community together, planted ulu and mountain apple trees. I mean, they're still a few years out from fruiting, but that was a huge accomplishment when it shouldn't have had to be that difficult to
You know,
implement.
it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, and
It's
so
like-
if it takes that, I mean, if
Sorry,
it takes that much to try to plant some trees,
It's on enable.
I think that puts everything in perspective on what's really going on out here.
I
So-
agree. Well, son,
Everywhere.
thank you. Thank you, Abel. Rhett? Oh, excuse me. Aloha, how are you? There you are. This is
hello.
Ambassador of Aloha, Stephen Torres. Aloha.
You know, I'd like to chime in on something. No, talking about the fruit trees. The sad thing is, I don't know if you guys know about what's going on with the fruit trees. Being that I used to be in the mountains a lot with my dad, and God bless him, I miss him a lot. But I used to go bottle hunting in the mountains, and plus I'm a hunter myself. But the state, they've been going up into the mountains and destroying the fruit trees. Mountain apple trees, rosy apple, banana trees, avocados. They've been, all these fruits that we have in the mountains, they've been destroying them all. They've been cutting them all down, taking them out. On the side of Likiliki Highway, on the Kaneohe side, there was a patch of avocado trees where I used to go and pick big avocados. Gone, no more. They cut them all down. You know, it's not there anymore because I used to hunt in the banana patch over there before. You know, I used to hunt for wild pig in there. But yeah, these avocado trees, the mountain apple trees, the rosy apples, all gone. I mean, you tell our young kids today, rosy apple, they tell you what is a rosy apple? They don't know what that is. You know, and so they're doing all that, but to take what I get from what you had on with today, the president at the time, he foreseen what was coming in the future. The policing with the military, they're trying to take over. And if you look what countries are doing this, China, Russia, United States, they're the ones that are doing that. You know, the one good thing that Trump did recently is open up the Hawaii fishing grounds again. The one that they had closed, but Trump not looking into the reason why they had closed it. It's because of Japan, the old fishing that they're doing, because when they come by the borderline of the waters, they chum the water so the fish run over there to go eat. And then they scoop all this fish up. I mean, and it's not just fish. They scoop up whales, sharks, everything inside the nets. You know, so the fish, they don't have time to grow. You know, or the overfishing. But yeah, the state, they are doing crooked things. They are killing the trees. So I figure I bring it up to you guys, you know.
That's
So,
fine.
yeah.
That's good. We have our work cut out for us, don't we?
Yeah, because I thought the watch parties that I've been on, I mean, believe it or not, China they chime in. I don't know how true the guy and his wife claim that they're the empress of China. And so they say within China, they are at war with their own self. Between the president of China, Xi Jinping, and the emperor and the empress, they're at war with each other. You know, so I don't know if you know about that, but they were telling me that. But the one thing they like what they hear on the watch parties, they said the beauty about Hawaii, keeping things kapa aloha, everything about the aloha spirit, that we keep to ourselves, we stay out of the other country's business. They said this is why in the past, when we had our embassies all around the world, more than any other country, they had no problem with Hawaii. You know, because you know we keep to ourselves, you know. And I mean, there's a lot of things going on. I mean, like what's going on with Taiwan and stuff. I mean, there's give and take over there, you know. Yeah, Taiwan was leased, and the lease is up, and China saying it should come back, and then Trump them saying no, all this and stuff there. But this is why United States are not wanted around the world.
Hey, Stephen, hold on a
Yes.
second. Whether the United States is wanted or not, is not for us to say. What our focus is on promoting our vision for the Kingdom of Hawaii, uniting our people, bringing stability, bringing down the cost of living for them to live there without them having to be priced out of paradise, and to bring back the Hawaiians that have had to leave because of the struggle economically. Those are things we focus on. As far as China and all that stuff, that becomes that's a whole different matter there. The only time it affects us is when we start producing or promoting more so our vision, and then all the countries will come. So thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, and I want to report to you also that a lot of the Hawaiians that are up in Canada, I spoke with them last night. The Canadian group of Hawaiians up in Canada, a lot of them are going to be moving back to Hawaii, and then the homeless thing over here in Hawaii, a lot of it was people who are not from Hawaii that are here homeless. We have Oregon to thank for that. We have California. We have Washington. We have Nevada is another one that's doing it. Chicago and New York. They're sending the homeless from there to over here.
Well, at least they know where paradise is.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Rhett? Go ahead, Rhett.
Yes. All right. Thanks. So I'm excited to share this. I hope everybody enjoys. This is about a presentation of the Peace Center, and some of this is their screens.
I'm making you a host right now. Oh, make a host. Are you there?
Yep, I think I've got it. Okay. All right. Can you guys all see this?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So the Peace Center. This has been working with the King and his inspiration, the vision that he had for the Peace Center. I'm going to read it and do it in his words. But in creation of a true peace center that stands firmly for right, respect, and love for all creation, built here in the Hawaiian Islands. In that vision, the Halo Ahumalo I Auma Lo'au, sorry, I brutalized that, but The House of Enlightenment and Peace united all nations to stand in solidarity as one voice and one people to protect the earth from land to sea, from unprecedented destruction that would change the landscape of our planet forevermore. This Peace Center healed the hearts of its nations. Moving on. Peace Center is also, I'm doing it on a bigger screen so I can read a little bit easier, but that's why I'm looking to the side. There are messengers of peace and practically, and this is from the King as well, practically all the religions on earth. We must come together to honor and implement those messages. As the first in the peace process, the Kingdom of Hawaii possesses nations of the world adopt and expand Hawaiian makahiki concept by declaring a year of peace in which all acts of violence, whether in the form of war or secularism, are forbidden. During that year, delegations come to Hawaii and or Hawaiian conflict resolution specialists will come to regions in conflict to share the blessings of Ho'oponopono. All right, so let's take a look at what we got going on here. So building materials for the Peace Center will be materials native to Hawaii for the Peace Center built in Hawaii. I'm not going to specify what those are in this presentation. All other Peace Centers will also use native materials to the location of the smaller Peace Centers that will be around the world. Atriums and gardens. So I find it very interesting that during this conversation that we've all had today, you've all brought up food and gardens, you brought up sanctuaries, you brought up the land. The Peace Center encompasses everything that you guys have brought up in your conversations, and it was just like goosebumpy listening to you all talk about it and thinking about this presentation. The atriums and gardens will include walkway food that will be grown where someone can just pull it right off the tree and eat it. There will be the aquaponics that will help to grow it. And hydroponics and aquaponics can actually be used in all regions of the world to help grow the food. So you don't have to be in an awesome climate. You can still grow the same things that people can consume. And this Peace Center will incorporate that. It'll be part of the land, and the gardens and the walkways and things will just span out from the main floor where everybody can walk around, be part of it. There'll be interior atriums as well. So interior design, we've had some conversations about the interior design for the different levels. I'll get to those in a minute, but they will be beautiful and gorgeous, straight from the earth, stones, and transition from the different sections that we'll talk about in a minute, more of earthly, down to earth, stone, darker to lighter in the middle of the building, and then on the top it'll be more brighter and white. It'll make more sense in a second here. So during the construction part of things, let's go to each floor. I wanted to share this from the King as well to kind of give the focus. So love is timeless, and so is animosity. The opposite of love is indifference. While the opposite of animosity takes on many faces and disguises. Love is an intense feeling of deep affection that welcomes and empathy, with the ability to forgive. It's striving with godliness. Animosity destroys, creates fear, weakens the bonds of unity, causes doubt, breaks up families, and burdens the spirit. Animosity is a victory to hate and despair, which wants us weak so that we cannot recognize love. While love moves through with compassion, hope, and faith, love is unconditional and does not despair. So I wanted to share that because in thinking of the Peace Center, it needs to be based from love and compassion and taking care of one another, and the food and the things that you can eat and consume and the beauty that you'll be surrounded by. So jumping into the plans, these are very basic. They will be changed by an actual architect. This is just to give a concept. There'll be a foundation underneath the Peace Center of safety and protection. It will be stocked. It will have an infirmary. It will have medical supplies. It will have food supplies. There will also be living quarters that surround the foundation, expand out as necessary to accommodate any kind of thing that might happen or cause a problem. That's a safe place where everybody that's at the Peace Center could go and be protected in a time of need. The ground floor entry level will be surrounded by the gardens, as shown in the other images. Will be a place where anybody can enter. Somebody comes and visits and just a normal person, they can walk right in. I liked when you guys were talking about it earlier, Frank mentioned a sanctuary, a place in the land where you could be. That's what this ground level kind of feels like. You enter it, it's safe, it's beautiful. There's atriums. Can you guys see my mouse when I'm in the ground? I'm pointing at stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So that this will be an interior atrium, but when you walk out to the exterior, this is where all the food and growing fruits and things will be grown. They'll be inside that will grow from the garden and grow fresh produce that will be brought in from multiple locations, but a lot of it from the grounds as well, with that kind of mentality. There will be offices and places down in this level to take care of things, like President Cox spoke of, the humanitarian aid, the different elements that will be part of this. But then mostly the people that will be taking care of the Peace Center, this is where they're going to be kind of basing their stuff off and helping the different people that will come in. Physical level is the next level up. So these are going to be named physical, spiritual, and the divine as far as the levels go. And they have their very specific purposes in mind. The physical is your cabinets, your ministers, your government bodies, your ambassadors, director of Secret Service. So there's actually offices for each one. Ministry of Department of Interior, Minister, I'm a fan of that one. Minister of Foreign Affairs, etc. And so these offices will be located here. They're deputies, people. This is really the people that are doing the ground floor, get it done, kind of do the work, mud in the boots kind of people. They're out there doing it. From the other two levels, they make decisions and have things. This is the level that gets out there and tries to make it happen based on the guidance from up above. It will be, the decor will be darker, more earthy, darker woods, these feelings that just, hey, I'm part of the earth. I'm part of that, go right out and become and do. So the spiritual level will be the judicial level, the body of law, the Supreme Court, the decisions that are made here, the Chief Justice, Attorney General, assistants and people that help them, and there'll be archives in this location to help them have what they need to make up the laws and the basis for things that we need to have made up in the spiritual level. And the divine will translate things down to the spiritual, and then the physical will make it happen after the laws are incorporated, kind of thing. So it will be a little bit brighter than the grounder floor, not pure white, but touching on the elements that are down below, but still a lot brighter in that middle kind of region as far as the decor goes. The divine is where the Celestial Council is. There will be, a big meeting hall in the center that has the dome. They'll have all the beauty from the dome there. But then there'll also be the offices and things. The King's office will be here. There'll be a second dome that also incorporates the King's dome. Just have some living quarters for the King. And then the different offices and things where they can get the work done of meeting there'll be a cafeteria, also a prep area for food and things in this level as well. Conference rooms, a celestial atrium on this northern side here. But this is where the Celestial Council will meet. Just a few more and we'll be done, guys. Sorry if this is too exciting for you.
This is beautiful to see. No rush.
Try not to go through them too fast, but okay. So the Peace Center is also going to have buildings on the exterior that will be the housing, the distinguished leaders, people that come to have the meetings. They can stay in these places that will be separate but protected, safe, and they can stay there for as long as necessary. We're seeing different kind of ways of doing things. Obviously, all of this is subject to change. I actually probably need to meet with each different one of you and find out your different ministries and find out what are required and needed. Obviously, you're gonna have to meet with some of the technologies and stuff so we can make sure that those are incorporated as well. But, we can have tunnels that come into the bunker that keep them safe so they can go to these different buildings and then have their meetings and not have to be out in the general public as much. And so that's kind of the campus a little bit. I know it's showing the ocean here, but I think it's going to be farther up than that. Not as close to the ocean, but we'll see how it all depends on the area. So, and that's it. That's what I had to share for you guys. I hope that was fun.
Go back to the building we're at, please.
Yeah. This one here?
Yes. I want to call your attention, guys, to the three domes here. The one to the left or what have, that would be different levels of decision. The top one is what Celestial Council will be. That'll be 24 people, men and women. And their job is to oversee everything that the other councils are doing. But they give, these guys will go out into the world to promote the peace, our vision of peace, and to create the same type of model that you folks see here, but not as at a grander scale than this. This will be the main complex that will service the world. And the idea that I saw in the vision was is to be in harmony with nature, the natural world, and to put them together like this. That takes a vision to do that, where you can have your atriums, you can have your greenhouses, you can have all these things there that will be able to, when people come in there to walk into the garden, they can take the fruit and eat and keep going. They can sit there, meditate, and feel the presence of what is good there. There will be a place of an honorer, a place of honor, a hall of honor of all those people who have left us that contributed much to the rebirthing, the reclamation of the kingdom. Of course, that we know Queen Liliuokalani, we know Princess Pauahi Bishop, who is also my cousin on the Paki side, and what have you. Then you'll have, of course, my mom and dad, and the all that would be a place where the history of what happened to the kingdom, but more in light with all things that's Pono. The idea of the Peace Center is not to rehash the old problems and old issues. It is to bring out new ideas, a change, moving forward, not regressing. That is not what the Peace Center is all about. It's not about regressing. And it's about moving forward, taking the problems from one country, and then they bring it to the ground level. They discuss the problems and issues, then it goes to the next level, to the celestial level, and that's where they're finding an issue, and that's where the peace, everything will come into fruition. I want you to all to know that this idea is not mine in a sense. I mean, it is mine, but it's not mine. When my cousin was in prison at the Iolani Palace, and reading some of her diary pages that I was able to see, and visiting the Royal Mausoleum down on Uanu, the idea of this all came together when both cousins were discussing this. One was Princess Pauahi Bishop, who married Charles Bishop. The other was Liliuokalani. And then there was a third person that I have yet to identify, but they talked about we should have a major pu'uhonua in Aupua, a place that can be safe, and create this for the world. Because Hawaii does have this ability to look at the intrinsic peace and divinity of a people, of a person. This concept, this idea from Hawaii into the rest of the world. This is how we can bring about peace into the world. This is what we've been working for, and now it's coming closer and closer into fruition as Barbara and Amy and let me go back to them real quick. Can we exit this? Brett?
Yep.
Thank you. And where Barbara and Amy and Dustin have been so instrumental, the weeks and months that I've known these three individuals, they've always had the highest integrity of trying to make something work. And these individuals have my blessings. And now we're now there at the point where we can see the vision coming to fruition from the Peace Center. Simultaneously, we'll be building our Indigenous International World Court. So we can start bringing proper legal, however what you want to call it, remedies to those who have been unable to receive justice in the way justice is supposed to be met. Whether you're rich or poor and you're accused of something, you have a right, an inalienable right to justice. That has been denied to many of the indigenous nations around the world. And so we have those two things. And thirdly, we have our Tree of Life medical facility. All again, these three things that the kingdom visions are there is what? To service the people, to help the people, and to regain the trust and love of the people. So these three elements that we're looking at will soon be built. The Peace Center, thank you, Rhett. You did a good job.
Yes. Yeah, Rhett, that was a great job.
Nice.
Very nice.
You did a good job in
Right.
that.
I do want to clarify, I was trying to type it out for Dr. Cox. These are not blueprints. This is a starting point, a visual aid to architects to have the actual everything drawn up and done correctly. Which to her point would include disaster and earthquakes and making sure that it's stable inside the blueprints. That'll all be done during that phase. This is just to give us a visual aid. So
All of that will be incorporated.
yes.
And Rhett is what is your title now, Rhett?
Minister of Infrastructure and Housing and Community Development. Couldn't find one that was longer than that, so we went with that one.
We went back and forth with, but Rhett is our go-to guy. A little bit about Rhett is that he's a general contractor. He's been in building for forever. I think when he got out of his mom's womb, he was deciding how he's going to build his crib. So he was already in that mode of building, and I couldn't find a greater person to take that role and to make it work. And
Very
so,
excited to be part of this. It's going to be a blast.
well, you have three people here. You have Barbara Van Hoyenberg, you have Dustin and Amy. So now we're working, everything's moving forward. Barbara, you have anything more to say about the projects? About what's going on without names?
About the funding project itself?
Yeah, no, not the funding project, how close we are to getting funding.
Okay, well, I would rather be conservative than, but in the month of May, we'll see funds. And it'll be earlier than later, but I don't want to, we still have some different stages to get through, and I want to be very careful about what I say here. So, but we are close. Everything has been moving at lightning speed. Amy and Dustin can talk about that. We are moving along at a solid clip. They're going to give us now dates to when we can expect things to occur. So we're no longer in a nebulous area of as just the early applicant. Now we're beginning to talk about the firm times, but I'll have that more on that in the next week. By the time we meet in the next 2 weeks, we should have a lot more information.
Yes, and I want you three to work closely with our legal team, our Chief Justice, our Attorney General, Lanny, because we need to get all the legalities done correctly and all that. Then we'll be working on our identification, IDs, passports, and the other stuff as well. So all that is moving forward, which I'm glad and happy about. Auntie Victoria, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to apologize for disconnecting. All my grandchildren started calling me all at once, so I apologize for that.
Oh, no need to.
Well, the plans that you have, Your Majesty, seems in place, in line. I am also praying for that healing center to happen on Maui and Ukumehame for the same purpose, so that our people can gather and bring their information and their needs, then I can carry it over to you, Your Majesty.
I have a
Yeah.
question for you before, let's talk strategy for a moment here. There are two locations I felt that the Peace Center should be built. One was on Oahu and the other was in Maui. Let me tell you why first I thought about Oahu, because that's where all the stuff is happening, the good, the bad, the ugly, all over there. I mean, literally good, bad, and ugly. Whereas in Maui, that is the first, that is where the first governance began. The first official place of governance was Maui. Hawaii Island was when Kamehameha came to the Hawaiian Islands, and that became where his place of governance was there. But the original place of governance, and in Kula area and out the north side, there's an abundance of land and et cetera. Where would you suggest our first to be built? What island?
Well, the very first one, I would say Maui, with the beginnings from the first time, where our capital is. Oahu is good. It is so congested. It is so a lot of mixture. It is so city. I would try, and I always wanted to put that it's a healing center, almost what you're building, but in a smaller frame, to give and bring in information and to keep all land records that we already have in possession and maps to be able to share with our people, especially the Kuleana people. So Kula is a nice area we have there. The other area that already a group of a family has wanting me to, well, they actually want us, we can utilize 1,000 acre they were giving. And that was to try to start an industry for our people, the hemp. So that's why she offered up that 1,000 acre. I'm holding up until Keakua says it's time.
My time.
Yeah. So either the only reason why I keep choosing Ukumehame is because not only because I'm there, but in time past, Ukumehame is kapu. It is kapu. It has been kapu from way before our time. So I just kind of keep within the history of the island. And that's why my feeling was to put the healing center. And two, I just wanted to express that I am the first on that whole island that can do something like this. Not to fight with the county or the state, but to work with them and have them understand why we are building the healing centers, some homes, and especially our Kanakamo'oli school, because the schools are very important. The principal or the head kahu for a independent Hawaiian school. She is located in Iao Valley, and she has always asked if we wouldn't mind to help and bring the school that way to Lahaina. That is that thought. Mahalo.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And two, my travels take me a lot I work with a lot of the indigenous group, especially the elders of continents abroad. So their vision too is to come to Maui. So having a central place like that, I thought would be a good space. And I don't mind. the land doesn't belong to me. It is Akua's land.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Brett, what Auntie Victoria, Governor Victoria was saying was that part of that, you'll be working with Palani as well. Palani is not just a name. Palani is in my opinion, this is me, Palani is a holy man. He's a kahu, he's a kahuna, he's a holy man. And he has been taught the ways of Lono by Uncle Sam. My mom used to know Uncle Sam. I don't remember much of him, but mom remembered him quite well. And so the Peace Center that we're building, you will also be speaking to Palani here, because he's going to give you his ideas as to build a part of the Hawaiian structure of the Temple of Lono within the Peace Center.
One of the most, in specific, Your Majesty, one of the reasons why I was accepted into, like with you, has to do with your genealogy and your heritage.
Yes.
Before Puhunuas, because now you're talking, Puhunua Lehua was called the gathering place, Oahu.
Yes.
Okay. Victoria, the Puhunua Pi'ilani in Maui is now in private hands. It's how that happened, I don't know. The Puhunua at Honaunau, Haliokeavi. Remember, that was, Kamehameha did not enter into the deal with the Christian faith. He defended it, okay? Kahumanu defended it, but he established his at Honaunau. So Maui always being the heart. I agree with that. I will send you an old tape of the Puhunua that Uncle Sam and I made back in that time. But it's very, these four institutions are spiritual land bases that now, like I said, one of us in private ownership. The other, Puhunua Lehua in Oahu, it's recognized by the state because all of the trails, the hiking trails are cut off. They're not allowed into that valley. Okay, and it's interesting why that's that. And one of the most significant part of that temple is that it held the seat of the priestly order of Lono. And we must understand that this seat area, in our culture, we talk about LGBT and all of that. That is part of the Hawaiian culture. We must understand that. Okay, and that's the part of the Hawaiian culture that, everything that the human experience is our gift. So, the puhunuas that exist now are going to be controlled, are now being, want to be controlled. Remember, Mauna Kea put the state in a very awkward position. They never thought that religion would become an issue because they bought culture. They established the culture. Kamehameha schools, and please, no negativity towards Kamehameha schools. My family attended, my grandfather attended Kamehameha schools, but Kamehameha school is a narrative of the mission schools like the Native Americans, only it was successful because the royalty supported it, okay? But they also supported the puhunuas in secret. That's what tahuna means. Tahuna means a hidden line, that the teacher, the kahuna in the family is the one that keeps the name of the hidden line. The name that is in our family, and why I was taught this, is Anu'u Mealani. My great-great-grandfather leased all of Nuuanu Valley. from the kingdom for $1.68 an acre. Okay? And he got into business with Ben Dillingham. So he was the financial supporter for that. So the Nuuanu is a sovereign area as far as the mausoleum is concerned. It's the only sovereign really entity in the state, the mausoleum. So I think the state is trying to turn Honaunau now, because of the temples involved in it for years, is now trying to make it a cultural practice program and eliminate any of spiritual practitioners coming in. And this just started this year. Jimmy Hernandez Medeiros was active assistant with Hank and myself in the Temple of Lono at Honaunau. When we submitted a letter to them to gain access, they backed off. They knew, even the federal government recognized that spiritual land base as part of our religious culture, but it's never been perpetuated to the people for generations. So I'm very fortunate, and His Majesty, to have family connected to it. So yes, you're going to see the state trying to take over the traditional puhunuas. Because remember, when I was attacked for being a radical ISIS group, and at the same time saying, well, Mr. Nabriga, you can practice your faith, can you? I said, no, not when you tell me when I can and cannot. And the free exercise clause of the First Amendment says you can. So this is another thing. We have this thing beautiful for the future, but the foundation of that is these four areas. What Kalakaua brought back in the chant when he brought back the hula. He brought back the puhunuas as a recognition. Okay, so we're like carrying it on. But my mana'o is not to be a ho'oio. The teachings, the way I was taught was, I will not learn anything if I don't ask. Remember, we don't have it written. You have to ask. Enenoi, ask. I'll never hand it to you on a silver platter. And the enenoi, you must ask. And so when I was a young man, I said, yes, the puhunu can be used for the homeless. And all the churches you want to put there, put all the churches on the puhunu. Everybody has a place. And that was said 20, 30 years ago. And here today, Your Majesty, you brought it, and all of you, Jessica, you brought it to fruition. So my position is to support all of you when you ask.
Thank
I
you.
will be asking.
Yes.
I'll get in touch with you, and we're going to be talking about. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'll be talking to both of you, Annie, Vicky, and I don't know how to say what the king's saying. Palani.
Palani.
So, Palani. Yeah, we will be talking. There's going to be phases in the construction and the preparation of things, and there will be lots of time that we're going to have to set aside to figure out what things are going to look like in certain elements he wants.
Yeah, you know, Uncle Palani, I went experience that because my group, Malamaka Kaniloa, we had a big EV protectors gathering, and it was supposed to be there at Ho'onaunau. They didn't allow my group access or entry to any, and this was just last month, and it was so hard for us to continue our practices and bring these things. It was hard at Ho'onaunau.
Well, they found out after Mauna Kea that if we were going to move again, that we would use Ho'onaunau as a station where we could lodge a lot of group of people. Hank and I had brought in almost 300 people from around the state for the first time at Ho'onaunau. And we did it for 4 years in a row to submit a letter, religious freedom. But when we submit the letter for religious freedom, the state parks ask you, why you come, sign a paper and tell us that you're coming under the freedom of religion. And that's when I said to Hank, Your Majesty, but Hank, if you sign that paper, I'm not gonna support it. He said, why? He said, because they don't have the right to ask us that. And that is what's happening. They're pushing this barrier. And the support they're getting from, it's interesting because it's coming from a group of Hawaiians that see the culture as its identity. So, yeah, it's interesting that Red, one of the most important thing about an ahu on a temple is that there are four, you look at there's like 4 levels, and the top is open. It's a triangle, but the top is open. That is called, that is my family background in that knowledge. The translation means the triangle in the heavens. Very important.
It is.
Because that knowledge means, remember, the triangle is our ancestral path. Yeah, the circle is our human, the breath everything has. The square is the foundation of these 4 elements. And for a traditional practice myself, it's the simplicity of without these 4 elements, none of us are here. I think that's a good place to identify our humanity. Okay, that's where we need to identify that humanity. Okay, so Anu Umealani is what Uncle taught. When I went to find out my name, I said, Uncle, the name in the family is Nu'umealani. He said, wrong. Anu. Not Nu'u. Remember now, my family, we come from Nu'uanu. The reason why he got the lease for $1.68 an acre was because he married into that line. Okay? And that line came from Molokai to come in outside. Yeah. Okay, so yes, there is a historical narrative of the spiritual value and foundation. And there was so many of us studying. I was not the only one. And I had some very close college friends that really supported the Temple of Lono. They ended up making it a nonprofit organization that I stepped out of. Okay. But yes, and for me to, when it came down to the end, it was just me. I went home, Auntie. I went back to Hilo. And if it wasn't for Lenny Sankin, who said to me, hey, you're the governor for the Temple of Lono, yeah. And that's how it happened, because at that point, like I said, I cannot be a Ho'oyu. Yeah. No one, outside of this organization, unless you Google me. Right? I'm not raising the flag for anyone. I support His Majesty and the foundation of this spiritual movement that you're all a part of. But I am here to answer when the Hawaiian culturalists stand up and call you on the carpet, and they will. It's coming, Your Majesty. They will call us on the carpet.
It is.
Yeah, they throw you under the bus too. Yeah.
And they're going to try to throw you under the bus.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why when the Lord
right
told me, you're Mr. Nabriga, you get to practice your faith, don't you? And I looked at him like, you just called me a racist, ISIS.
Yeah.
And then you have all of these university professors sitting at the desk with the lawyer. And I'm looking, I'm going, wow. What's wrong? And the problem was that the hard part was to look out in the audience and see the tears of my people in the audience. And they're feeling this knowledge, but they did not know it existed.
That's why on Maui, he in Pu'uhonua he Olowalu. In Piramate and Nuhuma. But the people do not, because that place, that space is our Pu'uhonua. Most of the lands there are all Kuleana. So the families of today still step up to the plate, and I support that because they are my family. That's that's the line of Lono Hemea. I am a Kamoku, my grandfather. Samuel Kaluna is the uncle of my father. So I understand. I am a Kaluna.
Hold on a second. You remember Uncle Samuel Kaluna?
Yes.
Samuel Kaluna was the prime minister of the kingdom. He's the one that sought me out. Your relative was a man of highest integrity. He got together with the original descendants of the House of Nobles and sought my family out. So, and
I
his
stand
wife,
on that very strongly. Thank you.
and his wife was Patty Kaluna. So that brings it all together, full circle.
Right.
Guys, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to cut this down. We need to say our closing prayer. But before we get there, I want to thank all of you for your contribution. Chief Justice, I really appreciate your presentation. And that all of you, Jessica, Shule, all of you for your presentation. Barbara, all of you for what you've done. I'm very excited.
We need to sing a song, don't we?
Yeah, we will. That's coming up.
Okay, that's me.
That's coming up. I do want to say that it's been long in coming where I feel more relaxed and happier that our financial matters is almost behind us now. Thanks to dedicated people that we have here. And that's good. So we got to sing happy birthday to Auntie Victoria here. Okay, you guys, already me paso. Are we ready to go?
Me.
No.
Okay, she, how you just turned 18 or 21? I forget.
I'm still 16.
Oh,
I got much to learn yet.
oh, don't we all?
I'm the 6'9", the 6'9"
Wait a minute,
number.
I'll get my guitar. Let me play it. Let me play music.
That's right, Red. You gotta hurry up, Red. You know, all us kupunas, we're getting there in I'm hitting
Oh, that's okay.
75
That's
now,
okay.
you know.
We gotta build it fast. We gotta build it fast.
Cool.
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Oh.
His guitar.
He did.
I thought you were joking.
He got
Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Wait, guys. Happy birthday. Wait. Cancel.
Okay, you gotta keep up
I hope we get our
Okay, ready? Last.
Michael, you cheated.
Okay, one more time. Forget the guitar. We're getting to this really good now, okay? It's your 16th birthday.
Yeah.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Auntie Victoria. Happy birthday. Hey, happy birthday.
Okay.
Better than a monkey.
That's why I went off the air. My babies called, and that's exactly. They just started singing. I went, oh my God, I'm talking and you guys are singing. I had to. So sorry about the disconnection. Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Dustin.
And
Thank
Victoria,
you.
can you say prayer?
Mahalo nui.
Prayer?
Yes, I could step right into that right now. Mahalo nui for the blessings and the beautiful song and voices.
So kind, so kind.
I got to refocus now. You know, the things that have been brought upon this table this day are such a blessing from our Heavenly Father to always gain knowledge, to create more wisdom for our kingdom and for our king. The most core thing in a Hawaiian is value. We must hold our values close within our heart. For those values are the ones that protect us from the war, from the battle. The four main, there is 8 of them, but the 4 main values that Hawaiian hold every day, and we teach this to our children, first of all is aloha, unconditional love. The other is malama, the respect for one another, bringing things in pono, in center, to be right. Kuleana, to carry our kuleana positively for the goodness and the purpose of all and our future to come. This past few days after reading Our Majesty's homework and studying and all these things, I have written an oli that I call Ke'olu'olu. And I would like to share this with you all in this closing of this beautiful day that Akua has blessed us all with, and that he has guided us into all these blessings and our peace center that is coming. We thank him for all these things. He olu olu kamakani, the wind is gentle. E mili mili ikekino, caressing the body. Ke hau ole ka uhani, the spirit is joyful. Ikamalie o kapo, in the calm of the night. E lele ana kamana'o, thoughts are flying. Me ka nahi nahi o ke kai, with the soft sound of the sea. Ho'oku'u ia ka eha. Pain is released. Ike aloha o na kupuna, in the love of our ancestors. I kalani, in the heavens. I kaha, in the breath. I ke kanaka ma'oli, in the native Hawaiian person. E ho'i ana ke kino I ka malu. The body returns to peace. E ho'i ana ka mana'o I ka pana'i. The mind returns to balance. O ola ia ka na'au. The heart is healed. Ika ole through chat. Ika pule through prayer. Ike aloha through love. Our dear, most gracious and eternal Heavenly Father, we, thy children, come before thee and we give thee thanks. We thank thee for the love and grace that you have blessed us all with this day, yesterday, and tomorrow. We thank thee, Heavenly Father, for all the love that each and every one of the nobles have brought upon this table because of you. We thank you, Father, for our King and the love that he has given us and shown us and continues to bless us all with. We pray, Father, that you bless and protect and guide each and every one of us this day, that we may bring a brighter light for tomorrow and a better future with much aloha for our children that are here and that are yet to come. We thank thee, Father in heaven, for the holiday that you have blessed us with. We especially thank thee, Father, for the land that we walk upon and the water that flows through our veins because of you. Ola, e ola kawai, e o e na akua, mahalo ia na aumakua, e aloha pa, e na upuna. Mama uanua. Amen.
Amen.
Mahalo nui o.
Thank you, everyone. you guys are an awesome body here. Thank you, everybody, for all your input.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful weekend.
Aloha.
Aloha, everybody.
Hello.
Uh,
Aloha.